Hello everyone, VanguardOfValor here, and welcome to Convoy. So, Convoy is a pretty cool game indeed. It started off as a simple car driving game and elaborated into something much more dramatic. We're going to take a little look at it today and see what it's all about. It was just released on Steam today, on the day this video comes out, for $16 Canadian, and your local equivalent. It is pretty interesting. I've had a chance to play it a little while now. I will say, before we start, that this copy of the game was provided by the developers, so that may or may not have colored my opinions of it in some way, but just so you're aware. Either way, though, we are going to get into this adventure and see what it's all about. So we have our spaceship Mercury here. Let's hop into a new game. We'll get the whole story in one go. But before we do, like many other games in this style, where permadeath is a thing and you're encouraged to make multiple runs, which is entirely what this game is about, you can unlock various starting changes which allow you to modify the way your game works. There are a whole bunch of different ones for the escort vehicles you have, and for the main convoy vehicle that you have. So, we're going to take out a couple of the fancy ones that I've unlocked. We're going to be using these two specifically, these hovercraft type flying drones. Each of them have their own stats, and they modify how the game works. If we see over here, these drones have 750 health each, which is less than these normal vehicles. They also have no armor, unlike these vehicles, which have a damage reduction as a result of having armor. But they do have a 65% evasion chance, which is pretty cool. And they have a very long range, unlike these vehicles, which have a much shorter range. So they have their pros and their cons. They also have a variety of other important things to look at here, like the weapon slots and item slots. As we can see here, green slots are items that go on our main convoy vehicle. We'll find a variety of those. They're often very powerful, but on long cooldowns. We have red items, which are standard weapons, and yellow, which are support items. So these are quite good because they can have two weapons and one support item, unlike, for example, this little ATV, which can only have one weapon. So they're pretty powerful. We've also got our main convoy vehicle to choose from. This is the initial one that you get, and there are a couple others we can unlock as well. If we take a look through here, there are a variety of them. I've only unlocked 3 so far, and we're going to take this one out for a ride. This one has an interesting ability. It starts with 2,000 health, which is decent, 50% armor, which is decent, very low evasion, which is pretty much standard across all of the MCVs. But what it does have that's really cool is it has this little drone. This leeching drone is an activatable ability we can launch every 20 seconds, which steals health from a target and brings it back to the main convoy vehicle, which is important, because this is a game where if your main convoy vehicle dies, you're just done. So it's a good thing to be able to bring back some health this way. So we're going to launch with this setup here, this main convoy vehicle and these 2 escort units, and we can rename them. So we're going to rename this one the Royal Flush, and we're going to rename the escort unit. You are going to be Diamond, and you are going to be Heart. Alright, we're also playing on Normal, which reduces the amount of initial parts and fuel that we have. And hopefully we'll get a good start here and we'll see what happens. This game has a whole variety of options that you can run into, and we'll see what it goes. So, welcome to Convoy. After enduring an unexpected solar flare, our spaceship was forced to make an emergency landing on the planet Omek Prime due to critical damage to its primary systems. The captain has ordered us to traverse the planet in search of replacement parts. Obtaining these will allow the spaceship to continue its mission. The captain wants us to collect the following parts and bring them to the spaceship: a flux capacitor, hyperdrive stabilizers, sonic screws, and self-sealing stem bolts. Omek Prime is a world filled with danger. 3 factions vie for control of the planet. They're the Privateers, the Raiders, and the T.O.R.V.A.K. Managing to survive in this harsh world where most arguments are settled with violence is key to our success. And we can find out a little bit about these guys before we go. We can find out a bit about the factions first. Let's talk about the Privateers. The Privateers adhere to the old pirate code of those that sailed the 7 seas on planet Old Earth. They are obsessed by wealth and frequently try to bully travelers into handing over their valuables. They are recognizable on the map by their green color. You can see the Raiders. The Raiders are a ruthless and bloodthirsty bunch. They delight in the suffering of others, often attacking travelers simply for the pleasure of combat. They're recognizable on the map by their red color. And T.O.R.V.A.K. The T.O.R.V.A.K are a mysterious group that favor technology over sheer numbers. They seek technological advancement in everything they do, exterminating everything and everyone that stands in the way of their perceived best course of action. They're recognizable on the map by their blue color. Alright, let's find out about what we have to go get, too. Our objectives. Let's find out about a flux capacitor. A flux capacitor consists of a rectangle-shaped compartment with 3 fast-flashing Geissler tubes. It requires 1.21 gigawatts of electrical power to operate. Great Scott! Omek Prime is a local professor who should have access to a flux capacitor. Finding him might allow us to acquire this item. We also have to pick up hyperdrive stabilizers. They're crucial when our spaceship has to accelerate to hyperspeed. Without the stabilizers, our ship would rip itself apart. One of our crew members has told us that he knows of a man who has access to a hyperdrive stabilizers. He mentioned this man frequents a place called the Sasiak Milk Bar. We might be able to find him there. We also know about the sonic screws. Sonic screws, recognizable by their soft blue glow, are essential to keep our hull intact during faster-than-light travel. Whilst spaceship Mercury has an ample supply of the required sonic tools to attach these screws, the actual screws have run out. Since T.O.R.V.A.K is the most high-tech here on Omek Prime, it's likely we'll be able to acquire plentiful sonic screws from them. We've obtained the location of one of their intelligence hubs, a large station in charge of overseeing their many operations. The location of a sonic screw facility should be somewhere in there. And self-sealing stem bolts. They are, as their name suggests, stem bolts that seal themselves. The field application of the self-sealing stem bolts is unclear. Even the chief of operations on our spaceship is unclear on their exact use. Regardless, they're crucial for our spaceship to continue its flight. A local corporation called Eiffels Incorporated has the self-sealing stem bolts monopoly on planet Omek Prime. They're led by 2 entrepreneurs. We should try striking a deal with these 2. And that is what we need to know to get started here, basically. We know a little bit about all of the factions on the planet and our objectives. I will say that these things are somewhat randomly generated, in that there are a variety of main objectives. You don't always get the same 4, but you get a lot of the same ones in each run. And there's a couple other things on screen that we should know what we're looking at here. We are looking at, from the top left to the bottom right, we have... These are escort vehicles. We can see information about them, like their health and any armor they may or may not have remaining. There are 2 other slots here for more escort vehicles if we can pick them up. And here is our MCV, our main convoy vehicle, the Royal Flush, with its health and armor. In the bottom left corner we have all 4 slots for activatable abilities on the MCV if we wind up in combat. Here we have our main world map, which we'll get to in a second. We have our number of parts, the amount of fuel we have in storage, and the number of main objectives that we've delivered to, we have in our stockpile to deliver back to our ship. This particular vehicle can carry 4 at once, but there are other vehicles which can only carry less. We have our objectives here, but these are more than just reminders of what our objectives are. If we click on one, it gives us a map beacon, which lets us know which direction we need to be going, which can be really useful. You can also use the nearest camp button to find camps away from your ship to upgrade and buy things. You can also use this to find camps you've never been to yet, which is very useful. And in the bottom right here we have a color reminder to tell us which color each of these factions belong to. And we have our storage space. So you can have up to 4 items recovered before you have to start throwing them away. Alright, so what do we do now? Well, we're going to look at the map here. By right-clicking on the map, we're able to drive our main convoy vehicle along. As you may have noticed, roads go quite fast, but trying to drive up mountains is much slower. But we've driven to a radio beacon and we'll see what happens. A single privateer vehicle approaches our convoy. It's trying to open communications. It does not appear to have any weapons whatsoever. Well, let's listen to what he has to say then. The vehicle identifies itself as the Thriftwood, mighty privateer. He claims that insult fighting is a big thing in these parts, and challenges us to a fight. Challenge accepted, Mr. Thriftwood. The privateer explains, throughout the Tarkin Desert, my great deeds are celebrated. And we can say, too bad they're all fabricated. Or we could say, would you like to be buried or cremated? Or, then perhaps you should switch to decaffeinated. Or, an old classic, I am rubber, you are glue. Yes, well, In case you couldn't tell, this game is full of references to things. This is, of course, a Monkey Island reference. There are a bunch of other references in here to things like Back to the Future and Doctor Who. Many, many references abound in this game. But I think we're going to say, too bad they're all fabricated. The privateer is dumbfounded due to our witty repartee and offers to join our convoy. Yeah, okay. That was easy. There are some events you can do that gain you new vehicles or gain you other abilities, and it just so happens that we found one that got us a thriftwood. Very nice. So, I'm sure he's not going to be too useful just yet because it sounds like he's got no weapons on his vehicle, but I'm sure we can get him some fairly soon. We're going to go off-road here for a bit and see if we can't find ourselves something over this way. Finding an extra vehicle early on is incredibly useful because the early game is probably the most difficult part. At least for a while, because you start off with very little firepower, and being able to get more early makes a big difference. Here we approach the radio signal, and it sounds like an emergency broadcast. We see a few transport vehicles in the distance. Well, let's radio them. Thank God, some other people. We're part of the KJL trading company, and we're en route to deliver some shipments. My head logistics officer, however, is a bloody fool and had us leave with too little fuel. So we're stranded out here in need of fuel. I don't suppose you'd care to help us out? We'll make it worth your while. So this event is interesting. We can offer them some fuel, significant amount of fuel, free, without knowing anything that's going to happen, and we'll get some kind of reward. Or we can ask what we're going to get, which increases the amount of fuel they want. Or we can murder them. And the big thing about this game is that you have to be ruthless sometimes. It's good to help people sometimes, but sometimes you need to be a terrible person, otherwise you're going to find it real hard. So we're going to murder these guys. We power up our weapons and watch everybody freak out in a wild panic. Some of the people have weapons and try to defend themselves, but they're no match for our superior firepower, but they manage to damage one of our vehicles regardless. Eventually the screams die out. I don't see any damage unless that's the damage we took, which is not so bad. Let's investigate the wrecks. We search through the wreckages of the transport vehicles and manage to obtain 11 fuel, 21 parts, and a buzzsaw. Very nice. Oh, come on, game. Every so often it freaks out a little bit when you end an event, but there we go. We leave that sorry bunch far behind us. Now we have a weapon in our hold. The buzzsaw is a ramming weapon, which is pretty interesting. We haven't actually seen combat yet, but so be it. But yeah, these hills, we can go over them, but it's definitely inefficient to try and do so. It'll slow us down quite a bit. If we can stay on flatter land, it'll be much easier to move. As we reach the signal, it turns out to be a poultry shop. A sign reads, "Turkeys for sale." You wonder how business is these days. Let's investigate the shop. We head inside the poultry shop and quickly discover it's not a poultry shop at all. As we continue to investigate, we find the diary of one Captain Deepflame, Scourge of the Seven Roads. He warns that whoever steals his treasure shall suffer greatly. Well, that sounds like an invitation to get horribly murdered. Let's give it a shot. Let's search for his treasure. After thoroughly inspecting the hideout of Captain Deepflame, we eventually find a hidden garage which has a vehicle inside. We quickly order one of our crew members to man the vehicle and prepare to leave. As we prepare to leave the hideout of Captain Deepflame, however, our scanners suddenly pick up signals of various privateer vehicles approaching our position. Well, we have very quickly expanded our convoy here to have 4 escort vehicles, which is really good. Will we be able to actually maintain them, though? Remains to be seen. Let's prepare to fight these guys, though, and see what happens. We're fighting privateers here, and this is the combat screen. We're going to pause it, because you can pause at any time, just like in games like FTL and other generally roguelike games. And we've got to be paying attention to what's going on here. We've got our 2 additional convoy vehicles here, the Thriftwood and the Deep Flame, neither of which seem to actually have any guns, which is somewhat problematic. They both have support systems, but it looks like neither of them have weapons on them. So we're going to need to use them as well as our initial 2 vehicles here to help support us and hopefully take down our enemies. Now, we don't know where they're coming from yet, but we're going to find out soon. In this game, in order to maneuver your vehicles, you select them and then you can click anywhere on the grid to move them to that location. They're not always the fastest or most accurate movements, but generally they're pretty good. The green circles around them shows us the range on our vehicles, and unfortunately it looks like both of these guys have range extensions but no guns. So they're going to have a hard time helping us out in this combat. And here arrive our enemies. So this is going to be a bit tricky. We're going to use our flying cannons to take out these guys as quickly as possible, and we're going to actually wind up using our other vehicles in a little bit of a fancier way. We'll see if we can get it to work out, but it should, hopefully. Now, we're going to have to do our best to not die here, and the other thing we have to watch out for is not blocking our own line of sight, because this is a game where line of sight is important. If your vehicles can't see what they're trying to aim at, they won't be able to attack them. As long as the enemy is within range, your vehicles can target them with their weapons, and they'll continue to fire as soon as their cooldowns are completed. But that is still a fairly hefty requirement. This guy's taking a lot of damage, and I'm not sure from what. We're going to activate our health-stealing drone to get ourselves some health back, and hopefully kill this guy outright. And this is an important factor as well. While we're driving along this road, we can't move our MCV. The main convoy vehicle always drives down the middle of the road, but obstacles will come flying our way. In this case, this is a lethal obstacle coming in on both of these blocks. So if we can stop this guy from getting out to a safe distance, he will guaranteed be killed by these obstacles. So we're going to try and block him from ever moving back into a safe position to make him wind up dead. Because if he can't go anywhere, he won't be able to do a whole lot about it. We've taken out this vehicle and he's become a wreck as a result. Hitting him will cause a bit of damage to our MCV or other vehicles.
Yes, Captain. Ready and waiting.
And he hits a wall and goes down nice and easy. We've managed to defeat all of the attacking privateer vehicles. We find 9 fuel, 22 parts, and a taunter, another interesting item. We'll take the loot. Sadly, during all of the fighting, the poultry shop was destroyed, robbing us of all its potential treasure. Well, at least we found a vehicle, it's better than nothing. It doesn't have any weapons yet, which isn't great, but it's got another body on the road, which is always good. So, we're going to keep driving around and see what we can do. But, however, immediately, as we traverse the urban environment, we're ambushed by a squad of privateers. They've cut off all escape routes, and we're going to have to fight. Alright, let's do it. Round 2, fight. This is basically how combat goes. There's a variety of things that modify the combat based on the items that you find, MCV upgrades that you acquire, and other things along that type. Do we have weapons we can fire here? Nope, that's what I thought. Alright, these vehicles are in fact unarmed, which is not great for us, but we'll make do. We can, of course, heal our main convoy vehicle by sending out these drones to siphon health back to it, which is pretty handy. We do want to make sure... Let's ram this guy over a little bit. We do want to try and make sure these guys are kept out of important locations so they can't be protected like this, but they should be okay. Neither of these two have armor, so this is the big one we want to worry about, really. So I'll bring our 2 blockers over this way. We hit him with his friend's car, which is awesome. So we want to make sure this guy gets shoved into this murder terrain, which means we want to do something a little bit nasty to him. We did unfortunately run into that broken car ourselves, but there's a nasty trick we can do here, which is we can ram him. By ramming this vehicle, we force it over one lane, which is going to cause it to die a horrible death. Goodbye there, sir. Excellent. We find some loot in the wrecks, getting 9 fuel, 21 parts, and a light pulse laser. Excellent. We're getting a lot of loot early on in this game, which is awesome. We can unpause as well during the end game and battle screen, which allows us to re-maneuver our vehicles, but you do need to be careful because sometimes they can try and do some weird movements, which can wind up running people into walls like these ones. But for now, we're good, so let's open our map and move right along. So, we've got some good weapons, or at least some weapons, to put in our unarmed vehicles, but we're going to have to find a camp to do so. You could go back to our spaceship in order to upgrade, but we're going to go look for the nearest camp and go see what we can do there. There should be one 30 kilometers down this way, right on top of this ridge. So we're going to head over there and see what we can do there. Once we arrive, the camp button becomes enabled, and we'll click it to arrive in the camp. At camps, you can do a bunch of different things. For one thing, you can upgrade your vehicles. By clicking on them, we can see all the various upgrade slots. These guys do not have handling, range, or mine upgrades because their handling is already good, their range is already amazing, and they already have maxed mine guard, which means they can hit road... Oh, hiccups are terrible things. They can hit road obstacles and not be too badly bothered. But all of their armor is acquired by upgrades, which is fairly relevant. Also, they have a very minimal amount of health upgrades, which is somewhat problematic. Whereas if we look at one of these vehicles, you can see they can be upgraded in a variety of ways, which is fairly interesting. These guys do have... Oh, these are ramming reductions, not range reductions. Interesting. So we're going to give this guy a buzzsaw. which means he now does extra damage when he rams, and takes no damage himself as a result of this advanced impact defense item. Originally designed as a parking aid, it prevents ramming damage through localized energy fields. And the buzzsaw is a weapon that adds extra damage to ramming, so now we can really tear people apart with Thriftwood, who we're going to rename Diamond, I think. I think we don't have a Diamond yet. Let's go back and check. You are Diamond already. Whoops. Alright, in that case, you have Diamond and Heart. You are going to be renamed Club, since you have the ramming weapons. That seems appropriate to me. And another one with another aid system. Aid's not super useful for us, but we'll give him the light pulse laser, which means he actually has a fairly interesting weapon. This one is one that is great against health damage, but is ineffective against armor. So we'll see how it goes. This one also needs to be renamed to Spade. Alright. We could sell the Taunter if we want, but we could also equip it to one of our vehicles. Not that I'm necessarily sure I want to do that right now. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the aid off of this vehicle and give it a Taunter instead. I haven't used this thing yet, but as I understand, this means that anybody who is targeted by it has to fight this unit instead of whatever they were originally fighting, which is pretty interesting for controlling the battlefield. Now we're going to come back over to the vehicle, one of these other vehicles, and give them the aid instead. So now they can ram people without taking damage, which is pretty useful. Additionally here, there are a couple other options. We can go into the shop and see what they're selling here today. Looks like they're selling an ATV, which has a cannon attached. They're also selling a medium rocket artillery and a chainsaw. The buzzsaw that we have does more armor damage. This one does much more health damage. And additionally, we can also buy health here. Repairs can be done at these stations. They're fairly inexpensive, only requiring 5 parts for upgrades, but they can be pretty useful. So now our vehicles actually have weapons on them, we might be able to do a little bit more with them. So, let's keep driving around and see if we can't acquire ourselves some more resources to make this a more reasonable battle. Here we spot a wreck partly covered by sand. Well, let's investigate. Sadly, it looks too damaged to be useful. All we find are some dog tags with Tubbington written on them. Too bad. Let's roll. I have a feeling that event is related to the Kickstarter and that those were backers who achieved a certain tier, as this was a Kickstarted game. The radio signal originated from a lone man carrying a radio beacon. "Hi, fella. My name's Guy," he says. "I need some help." "Well, what do you need, Guy?" "My cousin lives in the town of Colonia, and a plague has reared its ugly head. The courier carrying the cure won't respond. Will you help?" "Yeah, sure, I'd happily help some plague people." Alright, so that gives us a side objective. By looking at this on the map now, it tells us where we need to go for the next stage. So let's go try purging the plague. We want to try and avoid doing our main objectives for a little while until we become a bit more powerful, because they can often be quite challenging. But doing side objectives is a nice way to make some money. As we drive along the highway, just before reaching our quest beacon, our scanners pick up several raider vehicles closing in on us. We could try and outrun them, but I think we're just going to try and fight them. Hello, raiders. Alright, there's nobody shielded here, which is great for us. Let's go immediately start draining health from one of them. Start firing with you and you. You're going to move over so you can start shooting, and our buzzsaw vehicle is going to get ready to start ramming. Bam! So we really just want to slam into things with this guy. Now you're going to move over here and target this vehicle instead, because we kind of need him to not be unhindered while he's attacking our base. We're just going to keep smashing this guy into the wall.
Roger that.
Boop. And he'll go down pretty quick. And one more should do it. There we go. You're dead now. And they're all dead. Oh, yep. Whoop. There they go. Nice try. We've successfully defeated all the raider vehicles. Surprisingly, the raiders start to cheer and open radio channels. Fabulous performance, splendid display, jolly good work. Finally, a worthy challenger for the great Sir King Killer the Educated. Well, let's respond then and see what they have to say. We speak of chess, of course, the greatest sport known to the educated elite. Sir King Killer the Educated has lacked a worthy opponent for quite some time, leaving us in a spot of bother. Pray show your valiant skills as a battlefield commander on the battlefield of chess. What say you, good man? Okay. Sure. Wonderful. Let us proceed with a game of chess. A battleground for rival ideologies to slug it out of the glee. Pray, take white, good sir. May the best man win. Alright, let's move upon. Yaha! Clearly your intent is a Blackburn shilling gambit. A for effort, good sir. Sir Kingkiller the Educated moves a pawn. Let's move our queen. Sir Kingkiller the Educated looks thoughtful for a moment before making his next move. He moves a pawn. Let's ponder. Our next move awaits. Let's move a bishop. Why haven't they flipped this board yet? Sir Kingkiller the Educated looks thoughtful for a moment before making his next move. He moves a bishop. Let's think. Let's move a knight. We confidently move our final piece and state, checkmate! Sir Kingkiller the Educated looks momentarily dumbfounded before exclaiming, jolly good show! You are truly an inspiration to all of Omek Prime. I particularly like the usage of your rooks, who I never actually moved at all. I must thank you for the absolute pleasure of this jolly game of chess. Please, allow me to join your merry band of lads who are clearly led by a chess genius. Surely we'll be able to play some games during our travels. What say you, old chap? Another free vehicle. Wow, that's awesome. Welcome aboard. We might swap him out for the others if his vehicle's better. Ooh. The Pink Knight. Very nice. His vehicle is not bad. Not bad at all. Comparatively to the one we have, it's a significant improvement in every respect except for range, as far as I can tell. It does also have 2 weapon slots, which is pretty interesting. Can I move these around right now? No. So it doesn't have the support slots that make it as good as the club here for ramming, because it can't have an aid attached. But in theory, it would be better than Spade, because it could have a light pulse laser and a weapon for ramming if we wanted. I don't know, though. These vehicles are pretty similar. I think we'll take the Pink Knight, though, and we'll swap out Spade here. I like the extra evasion on this sucker. He's harder to hit, and he's got armor. Seems like a better choice to me. So let's abandon this vehicle. We'll get the weapons back, which is nice. But, there we go. Glorious! Haha! Let us continue. The game is afoot. I'm tempted to see what would have happened if we just flipped the table. Alright. If we unpause here, do we get the vehicle all of a sudden? Yes, we do!
Standing by.
Alright.
Standing by.
Let's drive you over to here. Now we're going to need to find a camp, because this guy is not fully equipped. So that is something... There we go. That is something we'll have to watch out for. But for now, let's open the map and move on. So, we're going to head over to this plague area and see what they're up to. We come across the wreck of the Cure courier. It seems like he was abandoned. Ambushed, rather. We search the wreck for the Cure and find that several raiders come out of nowhere. They were waiting for a new challenge. Well, let's fight them. We could try and load the cargo and run, but we're just going to murder them. Bring it on, raiders. Now, this guy's got a taunter and a chainsaw, which means right now he's only good for ramming. So we have 2 ramming vehicles and 2 normal weaponized vehicles. So we're going to have to try and make use of them. Unfortunately, all of the enemies spawned on the wrong side of the map, which is going to make things a little bit harder. But that's fine. Once we get over here, we'll be able to start ramming these guys. You can't drive in me. Call hacks on that one. Not quite sure what that guy's doing, but I don't like it. Alright, let's send this over to here. There we go. Why can't I send out my little drone? Oh, it's because he's not actually in that location. The game is just having a bit of a hard time positioning it. There's our saw out there at the side, which is awesome. Junk! Go get him. You can actually hit him now, which is good. Let's bring our other ramming vehicle over here and ram them in tandem. Oh! Poor guy. He's getting beat up so bad. You do have to manually change all of your targetings, which is somewhat important to remember. Here's another one done. Ramming is surprisingly effective. Please kill this guy, we're taking a bunch of damage. There we go. Cannons do good work when they eventually fire. After defeating the raiders, we hope the wreck of the Cure courier still has the Cure intact. We search for the Cure, and we obtain it. Luckily, it's undamaged. That's good. That was probably a random chance to actually be able to get it or not. And we have to go 187 kilometers in a different direction now to be able to cure this. It's way back where we came. And the nearest camp is back in that direction as well. Alright, well, might as well go back, because we do need to repair our vehicles somewhat and give different weapon options. Let's hop into the camp here and see what we're going to do with this sucker. He also has a red taunter, which is an unusual item. Normally, taunters are yellow. It became yellow again. That's weird. I was not expecting that to work. Okay, very strange. Let's sell these for 20 parts each. There we go. And I believe you are now Spade. There we go. We have 144 parts to use. We're going to use some of them on repairs right now. As such, we're going to check out their shop again, just to double check if there's anything I actually want. Nah, the chainsaw could be good, but I'm going to leave it for now. I think he's already got one, so I think we should be okay. Yeah, he's already got a chainsaw, so that's fine by me. Now, we can also do some upgrades, and I think we might do that. We'll give some armor to our flying vehicles here, which seems like a good idea to me, because they're a little bit vulnerable. The other thing we really want to do quickly is give Mine Guard to our primary MCV, because this means it can run over mines and get hit by cars and not take damage. And since it can't move, that's really important. So we're going to immediately max this out to give it 100% immunity to those terrain-damaging sources. It is expensive, costing us 60 parts, but I have a feeling it's worth it because it's going to keep us alive. We don't have any armor because we haven't paid the repair costs. I did that in the wrong order, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. We're going to head out and try and go help these plague people. So the plague people are over in this direction, are they not? Yes, they are. There are more to the north than this road takes us, but it should get us closer at the very least. And it is a lot faster to travel on roads anyway, so we're okay. As we drive down the road, we see a car off to the side with a white flag hanging out the window. Let's investigate. As we get closer, we see that the car is riddled with bullets and scorch marks. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a bullet pings off the hood of our car. We hear two horrendous accents come over a speaker, claiming that they want Philip Davis to come out, and that they will kill everyone. Let's try reasoning with the attackers. This seems like a very silly idea, but let's do it anyway. We personally get out of the convoy and walk towards where the shots came from. Several more shots land around us as we keep walking. Once we're within 30 yards, two men stand up from behind some rocks. One is a short, fat black man, and the other is a taller white man. Both seem to be around 50 and are wearing very poorly made suits. The men look very confused that we're not Philip. They whisper and argue between each other whilst we stand there. Let's wait it out and see what happens. Finally, the would-be assassins ask where Philip Davis is. We prepare to respond that we don't know when another convoy passes ours. The assassins believe we were trying to distract them and they start shooting us and the other convoy. Let's fight back. We fire several shots, but the assassins duck into cover. Evidently, they had their vehicle hidden there as well, as we hear their engine starting up and soon see it racing after the convoy. Well, let's chase them then. Upon returning to our convoy, we give the order to chase down the assassins and the other convoy. The other convoy doesn't appear to have any weapons and is slowly being withered down. As we get into range, however, the assassins switch targets. Let's do it! Hello, sirs and madams. Now, this could be a problem, because these guys do have shields. So we're going to try and... I'm going to test this. I'm going to fire this over here. We're going to move you guys to this side, because you can actually use your weapons against these opponents. You're going to target him, and you're going to target him. And we are going to see if we can't just blockade these guys to death. Where are you going there, game? Sometimes the game is a real hard time picking a target. Oh no, this does work. Okay. We can steal their health through the shield, which is pretty cool. This guy should die in a minute or two, which is nice. Keep him out of the way. There he goes. Now we can change targets with our other units and allow them to help us out as well. Now I wonder if we can ram this guy and do damage. Oh yeah, that definitely works. We can hit him through his shield. That's pretty cool. Alright, he's dead. Ramming is dangerous to our own vehicles, as you may have noticed. Ramming causes us to take damage as well as them. But it is a pretty effective way to quickly kill people. Does a lot of damage pretty fast. Now there is a death terrain here, so we want to try and make sure he doesn't come back to this way, but the odds of that are pretty low. He's likely just going to stay in this lane until after the terrain has gone past. Yeah, there he goes now. So he can't get out now, so we're going to lob this health siphon at him, And it should kill him, I think, based on how much health he has. Yep, one more tab should do it. There we go. You can't shoot through these walls, but we can fire other abilities around them. We successfully defeat the would-be assassins, and find some loot in the wrecks. Gets us 9 fuel and 38 parts, as well as a ballistic computer. The other convoy thanks us for our assistance, explaining they're part of the Philip Davis Transport Corporation. Well, turns out we were actually covering for those people, even though we didn't know it. Alrighty, let's bring you back to here, you over to here, and you over to here. That's not where you're supposed to be. There we go. Okay, let's open up this map and take a look at what else is going on around here. We have a targeting computer we can use later. We could go back to the home base, I suppose. It's close to where the plague is. Let's boogie up this way. While we're here, we'll stop in for a moment, camp. That way we can give our fabulous new ballistic computer to one of our flying vehicles, which has a slot for a support item. That'll increase its range by 100, which is nice because there's no other way to boost the range here, and it gives it a pretty ludicrous range anyway. There's nothing to buy in this shop beyond fuel. We might want to buy a little bit of fuel because we're getting a little low, so I'll spend a little bit on fuel now and we'll keep going and hope for the best. Unfortunately, where we have to go next is on the other side of a huge mountain range, so we're going to sneak around this way to try and save some time. And there's our quest beacon. Let's follow the road and check it out. Nope, this is something else. We got interrupted just before we got there. Scanners pick up several vehicles chasing after our convoy on this main road. It seems as if they're sporting guns that look remarkably like modified ancient cannons. Privateers incoming. Let's do it. We should be able to take these guys no problem. There are wrecks on this road though, which is a little bit worrying, but we should be fine.
Waiting orders. Guns ready.
These are mine layers, which is somewhat worrying. If they get out in front of us, they'll be dropping mines on the road to give us a hard time. But we should be able to control these guys pretty easily here.
Rolling. Ready to fire. Reporting.
Because they're going to try and get in front of us, and because so many of our vehicles are effectively immune to... Because so many of our vehicles are effectively immune to impact damage, with both of our flying vehicles and our main convoy being immune, this gives us some other options which are pretty handy. There we go. Move you up, ram him. Ooh, he got killed by his friend's body. Excellent. Target him, please. Move you up to here. Target him, please, and get you out of the way, because you do not want to get hit by that guy's dead body. And there he goes. Another successful combat. It would appear that most of the modified ancient cannons didn't survive the battle. We find some loot in the wrecks, getting 13 fuel and 21 parts. We'll take it. Alright. Random chance does play a fairly large part in the acquisition of goods in this game. We got very lucky finding so many free vehicles. Normally it's not so generous. Here we see Colonia in the distance and find Guy's cousin to distribute the plague cure. The cure distribution begins immediately, and we and our crew as well also get shots just to be safe. The people of Colonia are glad we helped them and declare us to be local heroes. No problem. A weapon specialist comes forward and gives us a plasma gun as a token of appreciation. We all pitched in, he says. Oh, thank you. We have a heavy plasma cannon, which is a very cool item. It's not a super damaging weapon compared to some options, but it is an armor shredding weapon, which is really neat. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to head back to camp, back at our spaceship here. And we're going to start specializing our vehicles a little bit more. We have one specialized ramming vehicle, which does a pretty good job of it. But what we're going to do now is we're going to turn this guy into a specialized armor shredder. He has an armor shredding weapon and a weapon for using when armor is shredded, which makes perfect sense. It's a great combo. So let's head back here, repair you up, because apparently you took a bit of damage there. Repair you up as well. And we are going to equip, instead of the buzzsaw here, we're going to equip the chainsaw. So we're doing more health damage and less armor damage. It's a similar setup, just a different trade-out. We have other people who can do armor damage now instead, so we don't need the buzzsaw. We could go for double buzzsaw and chainsaw on another vehicle, but I don't think we're going to do that right now. We'll sell the buzzsaw for 20 more parts, and we will continue on our merry way. However, we are going to be ending this episode of Convoy here for now. So, thank you all for watching, everyone. This has been Vanguard of Valor showing off Convoy, a cool new game just on Steam. If what you've seen has interested you, if you like the references, the art style, the gameplay, the storytelling, any of those things, you can check it out on Steam at the link in the description below. As I said, it is, I believe, about $16.99 Canadian at the moment, yes, and then therefore something similar in various regions. And I hope you enjoy it if you check it out. I've been having a bunch of fun with it. There are some issues that we'll get into in a bit, but overall, I quite enjoy the game. So, thank you for watching, everyone. If you're interested in letting me know what you thought about this episode, be sure to do so in the comments below. I look forward to hearing about it, and I will see you next time. Until then, bye-bye.